Welcome back to another episode of the Wild Faith Podcast. Today I'm joined by Jesse Urban. He is the co-founder of Be Still Retreats. It's a ministry he and his wife Lindsay launched in 2015 with a mission to create places of rest, renewal, and healing for those carrying heavy burdens, especially pastors and ministry leaders. Before stepping into ministry, Jesse spent years in the cranberry industry, where he learned everything from construction, electrical work, to budgeting and project management skills that God would later use in ways he never expected. Jesse's an avid hunter, fisherman, outdoorsman, and a church elder. Together, Jesse and Lindsay have built not only a retreat ministry, but a family-centered mission alongside their 3 children. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about, his faith journey, the story behind Be Still Retreats, the growing problem we have in this country with clergy burnout, and then why sometimes, the most powerful thing a man can do is just simply slow down, step into God's creation, and just be still. So with that mouthful, Jesse, how you doing?
Very good. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, absolutely.
That was quite the intro.
Yeah. It's I always like doing like an intro like that just to kick things off. But no, I mean it was how you and I kind of got connected was last weekend at the HHA USA event out at God's Country Stick and String. Chris, being the connector he is, was like when we did the scramble that first night, he's like, I got to get you in touch with Jesse. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And then I think you and I talked that next day, and I'm like, for sure, we got to get you on, talk everything you got going on with Be Still, and then also with the event you got coming up here in Rest in the Riser.
Yeah, right on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
That was quite the event at God's Country Stick and String. Is so beautiful. And, we had a little weather there, but it's good for us guys to have to walk and not use the UTVs out on the course anyway. So
for sure. Yeah, that second. What was it? There. What was it? I could only go Thursday, Friday because I had a bunch of dog training on the weekend. But Friday, that was after the Matthews tour. That was hot. Holy moly!
Oh yeah. I think that was a 3-shirt day for me.
Well, I had brought a change of clothes for Thursday because it was supposed to be raining and stuff, and I really needed to bring a change of clothes on Friday because I sweat just like a hog.
Yeah, it was good though.
Mm-hmm. Have you been to those before then?
Yeah, that was my 3rd time at God's Country, 2nd time shooting, and been to several of the shoots with HHA USA. Chris does a great job in that. Well, on the center shot guys, it's a great community to be involved with, and we always have a good time. So
yeah, no, that was my first, so that was really something to be a part of. I think I text Chris on Monday just to thank him for putting that whole thing on. I'm still processing it even today. I'm like, I just met so many cool guys and people, and just it's really cool how you can just kind of connect through archery and then obviously through our faith too.
Yeah, for sure.
But
so
before we go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, where do you want me to start?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Before we kind of kick things off here, I just want to do a fun little icebreaker question. So, are you a coffee in the blind or on the drive kind of guy?
I'm a coffee in the blind.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think the deer can smell quite a bit, but I like to think that it attracts them in more.
It would definitely attract me in more. I'm probably both, and it's kind of a dangerous thing because I gotta either wake up extra early to have it beforehand, before leaving, and then obviously in the tree stand too, because sometimes nature calls and you got to answer, but it's always a gamble with coffee sometimes in the early morning.
Yeah, as long as you don't fog up your scope rifle season, they're all right both season, but
yeah, for sure. That's awesome. Well, just kind of give me some background on just what was kind of what was it like for you growing up, and then how you got into the outdoors specifically, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Absolutely. Can I kick us off with a prayer?
Yes, please.
All right. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this opportunity to jump on with Luke and just talk about all that you've done through this ministry. And thank you for bringing us together. I pray that you're glorified and honored through our time here together. We give you all the glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
So I grew up in a cranberry marsh in Wisconsin Rapids, and I think from the time I was like 7 years old, my parents and my grandpa built the cranberry marsh, and I had planned on just staying on the cranberry marsh, taking it over one day from my dad, and had no plans of going to college or anything like that. And my senior year of high school, my parents sat me down and they're like, we know that you're wanting to get into this. The market has crashed and we just paid off all of our equipment, but it's really old. And long story short, we can't afford to bring you on in the manager spot on top of your dad. And they didn't just leave it there. They didn't like push all my dreams and leave it there. They're like, well, we have an idea to where we can, because we were just a grower at that point. They said we can eliminate the middleman, start processing our own fruit. And I think there's some money in that. We could make a go of it if you're willing to put forth the effort to help us do it. So I didn't have any, money to put into it, but I had some sweat equity that I could throw in. So my parents and I started this endeavor of building a cranberry processing plant. So we made sweetened dried cranberries, like the sliced craisins, and then a byproduct of our process was cranberry juice. And so from 2001 to 2012, that was my life. And we started out as just this mom and pop operation, kind of targeting a gourmet market, and grew it into the second largest behind Ocean Spray in the world. And we were quite a ways behind Ocean Spray, but I like to say we were second biggest. And
that's crazy. That's pretty wild.
It was wild, but it got to a point where my dad had been retired for 5 years. My mom wanted to retire. I didn't want to be CEO. I was an operations guy. I liked being hands-on in the operations. So we decided to sell the company. But growing up on a cranberry marsh, like the skills and the values my parents taught me, I grew up in a Christian home. We're out in the woods riding four-wheelers because we're surrounded by woods at the cranberry marsh. So when we were done playing sports, the teams would come out to our house. We had a pond and the toys, and so we'd fish the ponds and swim and stuff. And then we had good hunting, like right behind our cranberry marsh. There's quite a few years where the deer were kind of putting a good dent onto our cranberry crops, and we had egg tags, and that made for some adventures back there.
I bet.
But I was really blessed with the childhood I had and the upbringing I had, just having the range to roam. And then our hunting property was always, as a kid, it seemed way out in Plainfield. It's 30 minutes down the road, but whenever we'd drive out there, it just seemed like it took forever as a kid. And my dad always said, God's not making more land. It's the one thing that you can always count on being a good investment. So anytime that we got a little extra money from cranberries, my dad would somehow convince my mom he needed to buy additional acreage around the first 40 of the hunting land, And so we're on 500 acres of hunting land in Plainfield. And so when my parents retired, they moved out to Plainfield. I married my wife in 2005, and we moved into the Marsh House where I grew up. And long hours. We were, the ships passing in the night in our marriage with my wife and I. And she, we had 2 little ones at home. She was a stay-at-home mom. she had gone to school at University of Minnesota Duluth for physical and health education to be a teacher. And you had mentioned earlier about the different skills that you learn in life, and how you apply those later in life. You don't really even understand what God's up to in the moment. And I'll get to how God used her time at school, and it wasn't for Phi Ed and health. But so she was able to stay home with the kids, but we weren't seeing each other. And when we had sold the business, we sold to another family-owned company from out of California. So now the plant is still in existence. It's grown since then. It's called Mariani, and they're doing good stuff. I was contracted to stay on for 3 years after we sold, and things were going great. We not having a college education, but being able to build that kind of business, I was making very good money. We built, when we sold, my wife and I built a new house, and we built this 6,000 square foot house, and it was like, wow, this will be our forever home. And I had, the huge shop and the man cave and all the toys, and it's like, we had all this stuff that you would equate with the American dream, but we were miserable. We were still like staring at that bank account each week. We weren't seeing each other as much as we'd like to. My wife would stare out the window when I'd leave for work, and she was asking God, is this really what life is like? Like, I don't see my husband. He's beat when he gets home. We're not getting the best of him. And I'm leaving the driveway going, man, I wish I could just be home. Like, it isn't like she was looking at it as I get, all this time with other adults, and,
right.
And she's at home with the kids getting stir crazy. And I'm just wishing that I could be with them more. And we hadn't properly learned the grace, or properly realized the grace that God gives to a couple that's rooted in Christ, to have those conversations and properly communicate what we're really feeling for each other. And once we finally did that, and she realized that I really wanted to be home, and I started making efforts to be a better dad when I was home, that changed a lot. And so I'm working for this new company in the same role. They wanted to triple our throughput right after purchasing it. They trusted me to do the project. It's the biggest one I'd ever done. And we had, along this same time, so we had set our house up for hosting people. So we had started attending a new church that we were really plugged into, getting more active. We had a Bible study at our house, and the youth pastors of our church was a close friend of mine from like growing up, and we had gotten to know his wife because they were missionaries in another spot, came back to the area to be youth pastors at this church, and so they were in our small group, and so we're kind of doing life with them, and there's a series of events that kind of, you got to be careful. I find out you got to be very careful what you pray for. And you got to be like, this walk with Jesus is serious. And in those moments when you're asking him to shape your life, and kind of, I guess I'm getting a little too cryptic here, but so we were in a Bible study with a group of people from our church and our youth pastors, and we were studying heroes of the faith, and the story of Abraham was part of that. And I remember just, I read and heard the story of Abraham throughout my life, but being part of this group and praying into what we were reading, I just looking at how Abraham had the faith he was hearing from God. He uprooted everything that he knew to go to this place he didn't know, just trusting what God had given him as a vision to do, and thinking through how everybody must have thought he was crazy. But he knew it was God calling him, and he trusted him. And I remember praying in that Bible study that God would give me faith like Abraham. And in that prayer, you're not even realizing what that means. You're looking at an example, a hero in the faith. It's like, man, I want that kind of relationship with God. I want that kind of radical faith. So I asked for it. And life has been a faith journey for sure. And so we go through this Bible study, and my wife and I, you talk about, as a couple, you talk about how many kids you want to have and what church you want to go to, and all these things as a married couple. And then at some point your conversation wanders into, well, someday when we retire, what would we want to do? And this will make sense later in the story, but when we had always talked about how we love hosting people, and Door County, Wisconsin is this beautiful area we both love. And we're like, all right, we'll shoot for in retirement. We're going to buy a bed and breakfast in Door County. We're going to run the place until we die, leave it to our kids. That was always our plans for retirement. And we were aligned in that. So kind of just keep that in the back of your mind. But so at work, we got this 3-year contract, and finished this Bible study. We started getting into other series, and as I was praying, when you get more into the Word and you're developing your prayer life with God, he starts speaking to your heart things. You don't really know what to do with it a lot of times, and God just kept speaking to my heart that he wanted my time, not my tithe. And when I was in prayer time, I was getting this conviction, because we had the money where we were giving money to different causes and through the church, but it was like God was convicting me of, that's great, but I have more for you. I need your time, not your, and I couldn't give it to him. I was so strapped at work. My parents, on our hunting land in Plainfield, they were developing things. They had restored this barn that we utilize now, and my dad's kind of like a Phil Robertson patriarch guy. And so he had always pictured, like, my parents would bring the family together out at the hunting land, and we would do everything together. But it's like, Dad, we've got jobs. Like, I barely have time to keep my yard mowed and spend time with the kids, so they're wanting us to have more time out at the land, and we didn't have the time. So my wife and I started praying together, and as a couple, it seems like such an obvious thing, but so many couples don't do it. But there's something so unifying and beautiful about praying with your spouse. And we like
real quick on that note, because I want to key in on that. What did that look like the first time, and what did it feel like? If you know what I mean, like it had, you know what I mean? Because it's super interesting.
Yeah, my wife always says I'm the most awkward person. I make everything so weird. And I was at a men's conference, and that was one of the challenge put out to the men at the conference was, you need to be praying with your wives, and you need to be. Wasn't with
Joby Martin, was it?
I don't
one
think
of those?
So.
Okay, because I'm reading his book right now, and that was one of the challenges in there was pray over your wife, like in front of her.
Oh yeah. So I agree.
Right.
It's a good word. Yeah, this was a challenge that was given out at a Spencer Lake men's conference I went to through the Assemblies of God Church, and I took it serious. I come home with my wife, and we should pray together, and it seemed so awkward at first, because when we were new in our faith, it was so difficult just praying in front of people at first, and then you kind of get over that hump, and you're praying with God, like we're supposed to pray without ceasing. Like I I have no problem praying to God, and then praying in front of people, you're like, I don't want to sound stupid or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you eventually get over that, and it's like everybody else just fades into the distance, and you're just talking to God, and they're there with you, agreeing with you. Same thing with having your spouse there. Is the first time she's like, oh, okay, she was open to it, and I was just praying about things that we were struggling with as a couple, praying for God over our children, over our lives. And then that was the first time that we prayed for this hunting land in Plainfield that my parents were developing. We were never able to be there. We had 3 specific prayers. We were asking that God would show us something we could do out here that gave back to the community, that grew his kingdom, and that brought him glory. Those were our 3 prayers. Just open canvas. That's all we wanted. And so we continued to pray that with each other throughout the years. And then as it isn't like we should have a designated time, excuse me, that we like pray every day. I'm not going to sit here and lie like, brother, I've got it all figured out. My wife and I, like, we are like this all the time.
Right. Yeah. Everything's perfect. Yeah.
But a lot of times it's like when things aren't quite clicking and things are misaligned, it's like there's an enemy here, but it isn't my wife. And we always like hug when we pray. And it's like God just wraps his arm around the 2 of you as you're hugging and praying. And we just kind of melt into each other, and it's, I'll say whatever's on my heart, and we'll pray through things that maybe we're in misalignment on or we don't have peace with. And God always just pours grace over a marriage and brings peace to the situations. And so we don't budge on things unless we're both at peace with it, and we come to him in prayer when we're at odds. And, it's beautiful having a spouse that I can do that with,
Absolutely.
And so that's how we started praying over the land. And this was kind of later on in the story, but just another thing is we're on this topic about spouses. I didn't even know we'd go this direction in this podcast, but
you never know.
There was this thing that happened in our marriage where my wife and I are going through a real hard spot. It was part of the faith journey where finances were really tight. And my faith was wavering, like, did I get us into did I mishear God in this moment? And I was wavering, like my faith was wavering a little. Well, Lindsay's faith in following God isn't as strong as mine as far as like, it's almost like a gifting, I guess, of having this faith. And, but she has faith in me. And so if she knows that God's calling us to something, and I'm just charging at it full steam ahead, she trusts me enough that she loves me enough that she'll follow me where he's calling. And but when my faith wavers, then that freaks her out. And so we were in one of these situations where we're just things weren't going well. And we were, at that time, we were living in a smaller house, and things are tight in the kitchen, and we had snapped at each other, like making dinner. I'm sure it was my fault. My wife is awesome. She never starts fights. And so, it was something stupid that escalated, into this big blow up. And what would typically happen in this situation is we would go to our corners. We'd give each other the silent treatment for hours, maybe even overnight. You're not supposed to go to bed angry, but that happens. And I left the kitchen, and I kind of, stomped away, and I just started praying. I'm like, Lord, I hate this. This always happens. If I could just go back in time, I would have said this different, and I wouldn't have brought this up, and none of this would have happened. Now we're going to have silent treatment for hours, and I just want to like have a reset and make everything better. And as I'm just kind of like pleading with God, like, why does this always happen? He just said, she's probably feeling the same way right now. Or have you ever considered that she may be feeling the same way? And I'm like, no, I assume the worst. And maybe she is feeling the same way. And so I walked over to her. And I said, I know we're supposed to be mad at each other. I said, I'm not mad at you. I said, this always happens. I said, if I could go back in time, I would have said this different, and this different. I'm like, can we skip all the drama and just get to the forgiveness part? Like, because what the other thing that God had said before I went to her, he just brought to mind, my grace is sufficient. And so I went to her, asked her that question, and she said, you mean like a Staples Easy button? Like we just push the button, reset,
I like that. Yeah.
And skip all of this being angry at each other? And I said, yeah. She said, well, I can go with that. And so she said, well, what's our easy button, or, what's our Staples Easy button look like, our reset? And so we just made it a fist bump. Like,
nice.
If we have a blowout, and I'm thinking about it, it's like, oh, I should have done this different, or she does. We come together as soon as possible. We pray about it. We come together as soon as possible. We exclaim to each other what we would have done different in that situation, and we ask for a redo. And all of the drama is skipped, and we move on. And it was like we came to an agreement that God's grace was sufficient. We trust in it, and we're not going to do that to each other anymore. We're gonna give each other a pass, and that only works if So then, the next time that a fight is a coming, and I remember what happened the last time and what I shouldn't have said the last time, and I don't say it. All of a sudden, we would be like midway through a fight, and she's like, wow, I really appreciate that. And she's like, I know what you could have said and what you probably wanted to, but you didn't. And so when God talks about a 3-chord strand, and when you get married to your spouse in front of God and all of your peers, and he unites you, and the two become one flesh, like that's real. And his grace covers that, and it's there for the taking if we're humble enough and our hearts are open enough to ask for it and then exercise it as a couple. And for us, it started with prayer, and he's just been growing off of that since, So there's the marriage saga for the podcast.
No, man, I think I'm gonna steal the fist bump thing, because that is like, the Staples Easy button is just like the perfect. It's almost like, well, yeah, duh, of course that's gonna work. You know what I mean? Like, but it's like something so simple as that, but you have that opportunity to just be like, look, I was wrong, you were wrong, maybe we both weren't. But let's connect, let's pray with each other, and just move on. And I think like that's such an important thing to say. It's especially like today's time. I mean, it's like how many marriages could be and will be saved with just some like a piece of advice with that like that. So I really appreciate you sharing that tonight.
Yeah,
that's
and
great, man.
The big thing is like I can't change my wife, but I know she believes in God and she's following him. The only one that I can change is me. So when we come together, I'm not saying, when you said this, it made me feel this way. Like a lot of people talk about that. If she asks, I'll tell her. Yep. But when we're coming together with that, all it is here was my part in this. And if I could go back in time, here's what I would change. And I'm sorry. And you're owning what you have control over and trusting that God's working on her the same way. And if you don't get it reciprocated, that's okay. Like I can only control what God's working on in me and my part in it. it's up to the Holy Spirit to fix her, not me. So that's in the individual prayer time, afterwards. but
That's
but
great.
that's the beautiful thing about one spirit, and even in conflicts with other people, I'm kind of skipping around, but in ministry, you still we're in ministry to church leaders, and there are some difficult church leaders to work with, shockingly, and
sure, yeah.
we call them our EGRs. It's the extra grace required, and what we will do if one of us is feeling offended, God typically has the other one removed enough to talk some sense into the one that's offended, and but we'll pray for God to give us His eyes for the person, and then every time I pray, it's like, all right, Lord, the same Holy Spirit that's alive and active in me is in this person, and I just pray that you convict where the convicting's needed, and this is not my fight, it's yours. And we've avoided so many conflicts, and then learned how we've avoided potential like bruising of relationships if we had acted on what we were taking as an offense rather than just letting God deal with it. We didn't even realize what those people were going through in that season. We were catching them at their worst, and I'm willing to take it on the chin for Jesus to retain a relationship and make sure that I'm not wrecking something that He's working on in somebody else. And so in the same way it works for your marriage, it works for other people too. And all right, so getting back to this the life story. So God's starting to work on us. We're praying over our land. He says He wants my time, not my tithe. And I started feeling like maybe He was calling me to something, and outside of the work that I was doing, but I wasn't really sure what that was. So I kind of just stuck a pin in it, kept praying on it, and so that comes to this point in the project where we were getting high-end equipment to put in for this project. One of the pieces of equipment we were sourcing from Belgium, and I'm going to keep this part of the story brief, but I got sent over to Belgium to do factory acceptance testing before we shipped it all the way over to the U.S. Everything went good in the testing, but when I went to the airport at Brussels to head home, it was an early morning, like 6 a.m. We got to the airport, and I witnessed a robbery. This guy stole a lady's bag, and when you're watching a movie and you see someone steal something, he's running down the street and everybody's just kind of recording with their phones, and nobody's doing anything. You like yell at the TV. It's like, somebody trip him or do, like, man up, dude. Like, somebody do something.
Do something, right?
And well, you never know what you're going to do until you're in that situation. So I witnessed this guy swipe this lady's bag. And I'm like, not today, fella. Like, it's happening right in front of me. Takes off down the road. And so I just dropped all my stuff in the street, take off after this guy, wrapped him up, tackled him. Like, Coach would have been proud, all those bag drills back in high school for football.
They paid off.
I rolled my hips through good, Coach.
There you go.
So I wrapped this guy up. His face hits the asphalt, and when it did, the gun he was holding in his pocket went off, and he shoots me in the foot. And so he could have just as easily shot himself, but he got me. And before I could even react to that, there was a second guy that steps out, shoots at me, and I'm like, what is going on here? And so I wasn't going to die over whatever's in this old woman's bag that he swiped. Right. And so I just pushed him away from me and I'll never forget God like whispered in my ear, run like Jim Carrey would in this situation. Like I was like a
Ace
cartoon
Ventura.
character. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was zigzagging and barrel rolling, and there's blood all over in the street in front of the
Oh,
airport.
jeez.
And so I didn't want to get hit again. So
Right.
I get behind this big planter. They make off with the bag, and come to find out, there was 250,000 euros in that bag, and the woman had been hired by this Brazilian guy to smuggle the $250,000 in her carry-on. She hired her grandson and his friend to stage a robbery, and then stupid American wanders into the mix, and it all blows up. So I tell that part of the story to get to the part that happened after. So my wife is at home, and she's like 9 months pregnant with our third kid.
Oh boy.
And everybody's yelling at me for doing something so stupid. You got a pregnant
Yeah,
wife
right.
at
What are
home,
you
like,
doing,
what are you
right?
thinking? I'm like, something snapped. But the U.S. ambassador, I think it was Howard Gutman at the time. He came, and they're trying to figure out if I'm going to lawyer up and start suing everybody or whatever. I'm like, something shady. I got to get home. Like, just, if you can get me on the next flight out of here. He's like, we can do that. So they got me on a flight home the next day. And so that was interesting, traveling with a bagged foot.
I was just gonna say that. What did they take care of the foot before that, or just band-aid it up?
He said, you got to do x-rays. He said, as long as you don't need surgery, I can get you going home. And miraculously, it was a 22 hollow point. It went in the top of my ankle, out the bottom of my foot. There's so many nerves and bones and tendons and stuff in your foot. It didn't hit anything.
Wow.
It followed that big bone by your big toe, went out the bottom of my foot. It never fragmented. So, it was a miraculous thing. And the guy, they take the x-rays, and he's like, you're good. Like, thank you, Jesus.
Okay.
So they put a bag around my foot. They gave me a bunch of extra strength Tylenol and sent me on my way.
Jeez,
And,
that's so crazy.
yeah, so I got the wheelchair treatment through all the different customs checkpoints and
You
stuff.
probably got through a little quicker, at least, I guess.
Got through quicker. It was brutal having that foot down, for I think it was like 16 hours to get home.
Was
It
just
like-
throbbing.
Yeah, it was rough. But
Oof.
and then so then I get home, and I have this expansion project to look forward to, where I'm on my feet all day. But so I get home, and even though we're in the middle of this expansion project, my employers are like, take the time you need. Your wife is traumatized, like, heal up. And I'm like, give me 3 days. I'll be back to work. Like, I can't, we got to keep going, And it was hunting season, rifle season at the time in November. So this was in 2012. And so I'd gotten home, and my dad had just set up this ground blind overlooking a food plot. And he's like, well, you can hobble out to the ground blind, take your muzzle loader, and so you're basically like shooting flat across the ground. And I'm like, all right, I'll do that. So I hobbled my way out to the ground stand, and getting into that stand, and it's been like this every time since hunting, people that don't hunt and don't get, or at least get out into the woods, like, just being quiet in God's creation and everything slowing down and your mind just kind of clearing out. Sometimes it takes a couple days of hunting for that to happen. But being able to sit there and just spend time with God is so amazing. And that's what happened is I sat down in the stand, and it was the first time that all the noise and hustle and bustle of everything that happened was gone, and it's just me in the nature. And it was like God's presence just filled the stand with me. And he said, if I had commanded your life and the streets of Belgium that day. What do you have to show for it? And I was like, oof, it's like, talk about a
Steep.
2x4 between the eyes. And
Yeah.
immediately the parable of the talents came to mind. And I had heard this story, since I was a kid, and about the wicked servant that buried the talents, and, the faithful servants that had invested them and made more talents. And I'd never put myself in the shoes of the wicked servant, and God just revealed to me that everything that I had done in my life up to that point, even with the tithing and giving towards different things, like, it was all for personal gain. It was all the talents that he had blessed me with to put to work on earth. I was using it to stack, grow my bank account and my retirement fund and get the toys. And it was all in that moment. It was just that realization. I felt like Paul. It's like, it's all rubbish, And so I'd been following Christ since I'm 9 years old. I got saved at a vacation Bible school in Dan and Mary Peterson's backyard at their house. And got a little ribbon. It was great.
Nice.
So I've been following Jesus a while, but that day I gave him my talents back. Like, I opened my hands and said, take it. Like, I want to put everything that you've given me to work for you from this day on out. Just show me what to do. And so there wasn't any lightning bolts or like magical revelations in the moment, but it was definitely a divine encounter with God in that stand. And so from that point, I was like, all right, God's definitely calling us to something. I think I'm supposed to be a pastor. I was telling my wife, I think I'm supposed to be a pastor. And I started going to district school of ministry through Assemblies of God Church. And this guy, I am, like I said, I didn't go to college. I am not a reader. And you start getting into theology, and like you're taking home these thick books that you got to read. And I'm like, man, I am cramming for these exams rather than like just eating this up. Like, this is, it was turning into a real chore for me. And I'm like, but I think this is what God's calling me to. And the same friend who was in my Bible study group, our youth pastor, Pastor Jeff, he's like, hey, I'd like to meet with you. And we went out for breakfast, and he said, so I hear you're thinking about being a pastor, you're in school of ministry. I said, yeah. He's like, what does Lindsay think of that, my wife? And I'm like, yeah, she seems to be supportive in it, And he's like, well, are you sure? He's like, she didn't marry a pastor. And he said, there's many people that have felt they're being called to be a pastor, and they thought their wife was on board, but she didn't marry a pastor. And it does not go well once you get into it. And that was the wisest thing anybody's ever sat me down to ask me. And so I went home and I asked my wife, like, what do you really think about this? She said, I think you're crazy. I think
Straight up.
Yeah, she wasn't afraid to tell me what she was really thinking. Good. And I'm glad she did. And so that was frustrating for me. And I started praying to God, as like, my heart, it's kind of a search me, God moment. Like, my heart, I'll go wherever you call me to. I want faith like Abraham. But whatever you have for Lindsay and I, it's got to come through her. That's my fleece. That's, that story about, what is it, Gideon that throws the fleece out, and like, if the dew is not on the fleece, then I know it's you, Lord, overnight. And then that happens. He's like, all right, just to make extra sure, like, tonight, the dew is just on the fleece and not anywhere else. And so, like, for me, it was like, Lord, whatever you're calling us to, it's got to come through Lindsay. If she gets excited about something, she brings it up, then I know it's you. But yep. I'm just too all over the place right now, throwing everything at the wall, And so I would say it was So that was 2012. Yeah, so it was 2 years after that divine encounter with God in the stand. This was the other prayer I had too. I'm like, Lord, I think you're calling me to be a pastor, and I'm like, I don't do well with like cryptic things or, reading the tea leaves, whatever. Like, you need to let me know black and white. Is this what you're calling me to? Is this something that I've got to like push back on Lindsay with, or are you not calling me to be a pastor? But just make it black and white for me. And no lie, it was 2 days after that prayer, I come into work, and so I was the director of operations. They had given me a few different titles, but so all the plant operations, it was 150 employees, and I was in charge of all of that. And then I had a plant manager that I was kind of bringing up as my succession plan whenever I'd leave. Like, he knew everything I knew. And he was also like my best friend. And so we had a quality manager that was really good, high quality manager, super important role when you're dealing with food processing. She's a Spitfire lesbian woman, and I loved her, and I still love her. And her and I didn't see eye to eye on a lot, but she was good at her job, and she shot straight with me. And she quit. Like, she gave a 2-week notice, and that 2 weeks had expired, so she's gone, and we're trying to train up a new quality manager from within. And I show up to work 2 days after that prayer, like, God, if I'm not supposed to be a pastor, you need to tell me. I come into work, and I got called into the office. The HR manager told me to sit down. He's getting me water. The general manager comes in. I'm like, there's got to be like a catastrophic recall, something, something's in the product, and we got to recall all the product. There's like, that's where my mind's going. And they sit me down and they tell me that my right-hand guy, my best friend, was having an extramarital affair with a direct report of his. So he's the second in command. The quality person was third in command. And the person that my manager was having an affair with was my lab manager, fourth in command. I backfill all 3 of those positions in the job that I was in, like when they're on vacation and stuff. And so they tell me he was having an affair. She claims that he was using his position of authority over her to manipulate her, force her into this relationship. He was fired immediately. She left and said that she wouldn't be coming back. She was too embarrassed. So I was down my 3 top people instantaneously. His wife was 8 or 9 months pregnant at the time that happened, and these are our best friends. And so it was that, you, like I said, you be careful what you pray for. It's pretty black and white. Like, you are done training to be a pastor, pal. Like, your life just imploded. So we worked through things with that couple, and we're friends with them. They moved back to his wife's hometown, but he was gone from the workplace. So now the new owners in California are calling me like, if you need anything, like, sorry to put so much weight on your shoulders, but whatever you do from this point out is kind of determine if we sink or swim, if we carrying forward here. And I said, I was confident. I'm like, this is not going to shake us. We're going to come out of this better than we were, because if this was happening and I didn't know about it, there's a lot else slipping around this place that I don't know about too, And so we shut the whole place down, got everybody in that facility in one room together. So it's like folding chairs. Everybody's in. I was just straight with everybody, like, here's what happened. I didn't know about it, found out about it today. This is not an excuse for us to put out subpar product or to not meet our goals. And I said, on top of that, we're increasing our throughput goals and we're going to hit them. But if we're going to do it, I need all you to be on board and we're going to do it together. And I looked at people in the eyes and like, I need you to step up. I need you to step up. And we filled every position from inside, everybody working together. And they were like grateful that not for what had happened, but that it brought the change that united everybody in that facility morale wise. And so what seemed like this huge tragedy got everybody in that place to a point where I felt in a better position that there was a succession plan for me exiting whenever God made that call than I was when I had this guy that was trained up in my spot, you know? And that's God. I mean, that's all God. He knew what was needed and he gave me the strength when I needed it, support of a good wife and good employers, you know, and employees to make it happen. But we got through that season and, then it happened like 2014. It was Mother's Day. We surprised my parents and we went to my parents' church for Mother's Day. And at my church, they kind of put rose petals out on the ground for the moms and there's like chocolates and stuff for them. And so we were kind of like surprising my mom and expecting kind of the same thing, but everything was kind of somber. And we go and we sit down there, happy to see us and stuff. But we go in to sit down and we had walked into, their pastor was going on kind of a forced sabbatical. He had health concerns, some family drama going on that he needed to address. And it was like his world was just kind of crumbling and he was going to burn out or was already burnt out if he didn't go on this forced sabbatical. And so he was going through with the congregation what was going to happen while he was gone in his life, what they were going to do around the church while he was gone, and kind of laying out this map for sabbatical. And I'm like, man, it doesn't seem like that's what sabbatical is supposed to be. You know, we're not, none of my family has ever been in ministry or pastors or anything. So I'm like, this just seems weird, you know? And we get in the car and we're leaving there and we were at first like, what the heck was that? You know, I felt bad for my wife. Like we missed Mother's Day service for whatever this was. And we were just kind of silent. We had a 30-minute drive back to our house. And I'm like, do you think their pastor will come back after sabbatical? She said, well, I don't know. He looked pretty chewed up, spit out, like burnt out.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder how common that is. You know, like, that's the first time I'd ever seen that. And we went home and we dug into the computer. I don't recommend it, but we were searching all the burnout statistics and we were bawling. And our hearts were just breaking, like, and I think the part of the heaviness of why our hearts were breaking is we're in this Bible study with two of our closest friends that are youth pastors. We didn't know it at the time, but they were fasting and praying about taking on the lead pastor role at our church. And we're seeing that something was off with them, and we're praying with them in group and stuff, but we're some of the closest people to them. And we're just like, who's got our pastors' backs? Like, we're probably some of the closest people to this pastor couple, and we don't really know a lot about them. We aren't praying for them all the time. We're kind of horrible friends, and it just really broke us to think about, what if our pastor's burnt out? What would that do to our community? What would that do to us? Like, And then as we're looking at these stories online, it's like Satan loves, and even worse in the like mega churches, like he loves to have someone just make it to the top because the fall is so much greater and the fallout is so much greater. And yeah, it just wrecked us. And so we didn't know what to do with it, but we weren't happy. And we went to bed. We're like, I will sleep on it. And I wake up the next morning, and my wife is just like a kid at Christmas waiting for me to get up. She's like staring at me when I wake up. And she's like, I didn't even like finish stretching. She's like, I know what we're supposed to do out at the land. And I'm like, you do? Like, please do tell, And she said, well, we're looking at the burnout problem, and we're talking about Jesus never burnt out. Like, how is it that Jesus was feeding all these people, speaking to all these people, all these trials, all this persecution? He never burned out, and he never modeled that. And we're looking at it, it's like pastors need a break. They need to be able to get away and recharge. And she said, why do we need to wait until we retire to do what God's calling us to do now? Coming back to the bed and breakfast story in Door County, she's like, we could totally like make that on the hunting land in Plainfield and host pastors out to it and just like give them that place, pull all the stops, like make a place that's specifically for church leaders, and so that they don't have any reason not to come out, and they can just rest and get alone with God, and we can love on them. And I'm like, that's a fantastic question, and that's a fantastic vision. And so it was like the switch flipped at that point, and we were full in on how do we bring this to life? How do we make this happen? And so, I would go to work and put in my time, and I'd come home and we would research. We'd talk about and dream, like, what could this look like? And what does it need to be? Who do we need to be? Do we need to be counselors? Like, we're not counselors. And when we'd pray about this stuff, at the time, so in 2014, like, all these leadership conferences were huge. I was asking to go to different leadership conferences. Like, you could go to 10 of them a year if you wanted to. They're popping up everywhere. And it's like, this, learn how to grow your church and traction at the church. And there was all these conferences for church leaders. And I was so like, I was annoyed by it, just not even being a pastor. And when I was praying, God said, the church leaders don't need another leadership conference. They need dedicated alone time with me. Like, they are not going to find the answers to burnout in man. And that was so, I was hit so hard with it so early on. And then Lindsay and I, as we were praying, he's like, you don't need to be counselors. I'll equip you with everything you need. They aren't coming out to see you. They're coming out to see me. And so he was laying out all the groundwork of what our place was going to look like. And there's many different places, and I'm not knocking counselors and therapists, and all of that stuff is needed for different purposes. But what he was calling us to looks different from other people, and there was a need that he was going to meet through us that was a little different than what other people are called to. But we knew what he wanted us to do, and we didn't need to become something different to make it happen, because it's about what he was going to do, not what we were going to do. And so we have this vision and everything. We're talking with my parents, trying to get them on board. And
how'd that go over initially?
Well, my parents were along for this ride of me thinking I'm supposed to be a pastor, and maybe we could do this ministry. At one point, I'm like, there's disasters all over. We could buy a big RV, and I could load it up with tools, and we just, we travel to where the disasters are, and we could, like, disciple people and do the cleanup. And there's really cool ministries that do that stuff.
Oh, I bet.
But my wife was staring at me. She's like, no. She's like, I am not a homeschool mom. I can't. You would kill me. Like, I'm not doing that. And I'm like, dang it. I thought that was a good one.
That was it, yeah.
Yeah. And So my parents were weathering all of that stuff with us too. Like, oh, here's another one of Jesse's crazy ideas. And I'm like, no, this one is from God. This one came from Lindsay. And, we always talk about as a family, like, God has blessed us so much through this business. How do we give back? How do we bring him glory? And the church leaders are in a rough spot. At that time, it was like 35% of pastors had considered quitting. When you're talking post-COVID numbers, that went up to more like 45%. Damn. And 80% of pastors reporting that they had experienced burnout. And after COVID, it was like 43% said that they had strongly considered leaving their current congregation, not like necessarily walking away from their calling completely, but like, I got to get away from this congregation. And that was doubled from before COVID. And I mean, I think all of us felt that. Yep. But I'm telling my parents about this stuff, and they could see that something was different, and they were all in. Like I said, God's calling us to this. I know it, and they were right out of the gate, fully on board, supportive of it. That's amazing. And so Lindsay and I were talking about it, like, okay, what's our green light that it's time to start this? Because it's going to take a lot of money to build a retreat. Do I kind of work and we're kind of funding it? Do we start a 501c3 and then start fundraising to build it? And when we were praying through it, and I was running numbers on what we wanted to build, God was saying, you have everything you need in your coffers right now. Like, you put up your money and you do it with your money. And so we're like, all right, we're gonna have to be able to live off of a third of what I'm making right now. So we started scaling everything back and living off of a third of what I was bringing in. We're like, we need to sell our house, because we were looking at roughly $1 million of capital to build what we needed to build. And so that meant our house, our savings. The only thing we weren't touching at that point was our retirement accounts. And so we put our house up for sale. No realtors would touch it. We put it up on Zillow ourselves. We had it on Zillow for, I don't know, a couple of months, and we had 2, maybe 3 people come look at the house for a showing, and we had kind of our rock bottom price that we needed for the house compared to what we listed it for. And our green light was, when God sells our house, then we know it's time to start building it. So I had talked to my employers and kind of told them, I'd given them a 3-year notice. Like, in the next 3 years, I'm out of here. Like, I trust within that amount of time, God's going to have me moved on. So we need to find my replacement now. Well, they found my replacement in 3 months. The two of us were nothing alike. He is a Fortune 500 guy, fully educated, very huge ego, not quality focused. And so things were getting turned up at work where it's like, I cannot work with this guy. They're making a bad decision. This is not their guy. And I was in meetings with them, and I told them, like, this is not your guy. And the general manager, close friend of mine, he looked at me, he said, Jesse, with all due respect, you're the past. This guy is the future. I believe in him. We're going with him. And so you're going to have to figure out how to make it work. Or if the two of you can't work here together, then we're going to have to figure something else out. And so I said, well, I think you're making a mistake, and I think I'm going to probably be leaving, And so my employers they're in California, the Mariani family, some of the best leaders I've ever worked with. George Sousa is was the name of the president at that time, he was the I don't know if president was his title. The main owner was Mark Mariani, and George Sousa was kind of the head of the operations.
Sure.
Amazing leader. He, they came up with this plan. They're like, Jesse, we want you to lead up capital expansion projects in both Wisconsin and California. And so you'd be working, you can work from home. You report directly to my favorite guy, George. So this is like a dream job for me. So I know that we're called to this ministry. I have this dream job presented to me. I come home that weekend. They said, we'd like for you to think about it, talk to your wife over the weekend, give us an answer on Monday if you'd like to take this position. Excuse me. So I go home and I'm like, man, this is an amazing opportunity. And she said, yeah, you could work from home. We can start this ministry and it'd be funded. I'm like, yeah, it looks like it's like God is like answering all of our prayers. And then I went into the prayer closet. I literally had a desk in my closet that I was working from at the time, and like with all the Be Still stuff. Mm-hmm. And I go into the closet and I'm praying about it. And God gave me this vision that if I took the job, I would be traveling all the time. If I thought that my wife and I were ships passing before, now it would be that, but I'd be traveling. I'd come from a past pornography addiction that was busted. And God basically was like, if you take this path, your lust will overcome you and you're traveling by yourself and you will wreck your marriage. And that was the vision he was giving me. And I'm like, well, I don't want none of that.
Get me out of there. No way. Yeah.
And I did. That was another beautiful part of this story when my friend just about wrecked his marriage with that affair that he had that imploded work. Mm-hmm. We were kind of like counseling with them as friends, and I came home from. It was 2 days after we were kind of meeting with them, and my wife was just saying like, I just can't believe he would do this, and I don't know if I can ever look at him the same again. And she's making these comments. She didn't know that I had a pornography addiction, and that I had gone through this phase in my journey with Jesus where I smashed up my smartphone with a hammer. I was reading in the Bible, and I like rededicated every part of my body, my eyes, my hands, everything to Jesus, and said, only you can break me from this. And I knew that my phone was what I was viewing this stuff on, so I took it out to the garage and I smashed it up with a hammer. And I got a dumb phone. My wife she thought it was weird that I was switching to a dumb phone, but she didn't ask a lot of questions. Like, he's kind of a quirky guy. I didn't tell her what was going on. I was horrified that she would not understand. Like, the enemy's telling me, there's a lot of things you can share with your wife, but that one would break her, and she would never look at you the same. And God brought me through that, but I had never confessed it to my wife. And so when she said that about my friend, that I don't know if I could ever look at him the same way, I broke. And I'm like, Linz, you need to know that I came to the same crossroads he came to, and he went this way, and I smashed my smartphone and went this way. But for God, that could be me. I could have wrecked our marriage if I had followed that, stayed on that path. God broke it. And she said, oh my gosh, she said, why didn't you ever tell me about this? And I said, I was afraid that you wouldn't be able to look at me the same way. And she starts bawling, and she's like, I'm like, and it was like the enemy in that point is like, I told you, she's disgusted right now. And I'm watching her. I'm like, oh, here it comes. Like what I've been dreading my whole life. I'm seeing on my wife's face, and she goes, "I'm so sad that you had to weather that on your own, and I couldn't help you through it, and because you didn't, trust me to help you through it." And I'm like, what a liar. It was such a victory over the adversary in that moment. Like, you told me all these lies about my wife and I believed you. And she just proved she is 100 times the woman that I thought she was,
It's amazing.
And, and then, and it helped her with him not look at him different, because I could have been there too. It was, and I was kicking myself that as guys, we don't talk about these problems with each other. And
right.
Maybe if I had opened up to him about what I was going through, he could have stopped and not wrecked his marriage, So anyway, just another rabbit trail.
Yeah, it's good, man.
But so we so I got to make this decision. Like, am I going to take this job? It was evident to me. I'm like, Linz, I just told her, like, I'll be traveling all the time. It's going to be miserable. And if I'm not going to travel without you and you don't like traveling out to there, how is this going to work? And right. She's like, well, we got to figure something out. So we go to church that Sunday, and we have a 30-minute drive to church, and Loren Livingston is on the radio. And he's giving this sermon about when Elijah called Elisha and throwing the mantle on him. And he's, he's sitting in line with all of his oxen to plow. And I'm subphrasing or whatever.
Yeah, I got
you. To get through the story. But Elijah throws the mantle to Elisha. Why did they have to make their names so similar?
Yeah, right. Just one letter. That's
You're crying out loud. But so Elisha knew what that meant, and he comes to Elijah and he's like, I'll follow you. Let me get my things in order. Like, let me go home. And, I can't remember if that's the one where he's like, let me bury my father or whatever. But essentially what Elijah said is, that's fine. You can go and settle everything, but don't forget what you're feeling right now. Like, don't get cold feet. And Elisha knew that he was right. So he busted up all of his plow equipment, had a big old barbecue, roasted his cattle on the barbecue, and had a farewell feast. Like, I'm off to my calling. And Loren Livingston says, I don't know if it's someone in the congregation or someone listening on the radio right now. He said, but you're there and you're faced with a decision. He said, and you're looking at this path, and he said, there's this path that is comfortable and there's opportunity, and it's a wide path. And he's like, and you can take that path, and the Lord's not going to leave you or forsake you. Like, he'll be in it with you. He said, but then there's that narrow path, that kind of scary one that's smaller and kind of leads off into the darkness, and you're getting called to that path. It's like, what would happen if you chose that path, and see if God doesn't open the floodgates of heaven and pour out his blessings on that path for you? And I'm listening to this message, and we're on our way to church, and the tears are coming down, and I'm looking at Lindsay in the passenger seat, and she is dead stare out the window. She would not make eye contact with me because she's hearing it too, and she didn't want to hear it. And she kept saying, our house is not sold yet. You quit your job, because it's like, I take this job or I quit was my option. So it's just like, this is not the game plan. The house is supposed to sell first, then we have the money to make these other things work. And I'm like, Linz, how is this guy not talking directly to us right now? If we get to church and I'm such a wreck, I'm like, I can't even go inside. I'm like, I heard the message I needed to hear today. Like, we didn't even go inside. We went back home. And I was just too much of a wreck. And so Monday morning rolls around, and I said, Linz, I have got to quit this job. Like, I cannot take this. And she said, I need more time. She said, I am not with you on this. And I said, you need to promise me that you will be on your knees as long as it takes. I said, I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Like, now is the time. I need to leave. And I said, but I won't do anything until we're in alignment on this and you're at peace with it. And so I leave for work, and it was so weird. I got into work, I'm making my rounds, and normally, like, I'm bumping into people, they're reporting to me. I was in the know of everything. I'm having meetings. Well, they were having all these external meetings, not including me, because they're expecting I'm going to take the job. They need to figure this stuff out without me. And so, like, I'm just making rounds. I come back to an empty office that usually I'm sharing with like 4 people in cubicles, and like, So I looked at my email, and it was like 10:45 in the morning, and I get an email from my beautiful wife, and the email read something like, I love you, babe. I trust you. I know God will get us through this. I love you. It was something short like that. And for whatever reason, I looked at that and I went, green light. Like,
that's it. That's all I needed.
Nobody was around. I took, 10 years of my life in this office. I stuffed it into my little Chevy Cruze car out in the parking lot. And I went into the general manager and I said, can't take the job. I said, I'm leaving today. I said, I got my things packed in the car. I'm out of here. And he's kind of like, what? Are you kidding me? I'm like, I'm the past, like I've got to go. I can't take it. I said, please tell them, the Marianis to give me a call. I'll explain it all. But this weekend was pretty radical and I need to be done. And it's like, okay, so I come home at noon and my wife goes, what did you do? I've never been home at noon ever, like since we were married, And I said, well, babe, you sent this email. Like, I thought that you had come to the same point. She said, I was trying to be a supporting wife. She said, no, I'm an angry wife. And she's like,
I didn't think you were going to do it. Yeah.
She's like, I can't believe you. And she was so mad. So we hadn't established the redo button, the grace button yet.
Yeah.
At that point, so I got silent treatment. I got bad, like sleep on the couch bad. Mm-hmm. And so the next day, I'm like, well, I don't have a job to go to. I've got this stack of wood that needs splitting. I'm gonna go split wood. So it was getting into winter time, and I'm splitting wood. And all of a sudden, Lindsay comes running out of the house. She didn't have a coat on. She's barefoot. She's got a phone in her hand. And I'm like, oh, no, now what happened? Like, someone died. What's going on? And she said, you're never going to believe this. And I said, what's going on? And she said, the one of 2 people that came to look at our house, she said, they just called. They want to buy our house. Like,
wow.
And the day after I quit.
That's insane.
And the 2 of us embraced in that moment whatever gap there was in between my faith that we were made the right call and hers was just closed instantaneously. And we were rejoicing that God affirmed that with that jump of faith in that moment is like, there's nothing stopping us. We are doing this thing, And so that was it. Like we sold our house, drained our accounts. We built this retreat facility, and so in 2015 we got our 501c3 and started hosting our first guests, and it was around like 350 guests our first year, and now. Wow. And
how'd you get that first year, that seems like a pretty high number.
Yeah. Well, so we had prior to quitting our job, we could afford one cottage out here. So we're like, let's get the one cottage in, and we can start hosting people there. So we were hosting our friends, some local pastors. So a couple people knew what we were up to. And once we were all in, we're gonna do this. We had the fall of 2015 is when all of our cottages were delivered, and we went to 3 denominational conferences over that summer, and just let them know what we were doing, that we were opening, that we're available. Sorry, we went to one. We went to one conference. It was the following year that we went to 3.
Okay.
And we're just like, I printed, like screen printed a shirt that on the front of it, it says Jesus withdrew. And everybody's looking at this shirt like, what's he trying to say with that shirt? And then on the back of it, it said, Be Still Retreats is the place to withdraw. and then we had this booth set up that we made. We didn't know what we were doing. Yeah. But people were like, some of our biggest things are, we're an adult only retreat. We love our kids, but they're distracting. We want to focus on relationships, personal relationship with God, relationship with spouse, and relationship with support staff. That was and all this stuff was prayed over. Like, we were open to doing a family retreat, but God steered our hearts towards, no, we need to focus on marriages and couples. Like, there's other places, there's other camps for family. This needs to be different. And it's like, okay, we can do that. And then so when these people were coming up to our booths at this conference, we're like, all right, so there's no cost for you to come out. That was another thing we established. There'd be no cost. And you can stay up to 7 nights, no cost to you. There's no counseling. There's no programs. There's no activities. We have 3 miles of trails. We have a pond. We have this beautiful cottage that's intended for you. It's not a secondary space in a corner somewhere or some dude's basement that you're a little creeped out by. This place was made for you. And all you need to do is get there. You need to carve out the time and you need to get there. And people were so like, what's the catch? But we got 300, just over 300 of them to come out the first year just from that conference, crazy. Word of mouth. And once they came, they were booking again, and they were booking like people would typically like come out for one night, like, I don't know what we're stepping into. And then when they come the second time, it's typically always 3 nights they book for, because it takes one night just to unwind, kind of like we were talking about with hunting. Yeah. It takes one night to unwind, and then the second day is when God shows up. That's just typically when you withdraw. That's how it works. And yeah, so we built the retreat, and we've had, several leaps of faith throughout the years, different programs that we've tried and expansions that we've tried and failed at. But God has been faithful through all of it. We're not fundraisers. The thought of asking other people for money for me, like, I wanted to throw up in my mouth. It's like, I'm the guy that gives money. Like, now I'm supposed to ask other people for their hard-earned money through this thing. And I was really like kind of bucking it. And then, that period of time that I was talking about where my faith was wavering, it was 2018, and this stuff always happens around Christmas time, like where we're in a really rough spot, and it's like always where Christmas is on the line, because when I quit my job was right before Christmas. That was one of the things Lindsay says, I'm taking all the Christmas gifts back. Like, way to wreck Christmas. Yeah, thanks. So we were coming up into Christmas, and I'm looking. We had just watched our savings account that we had set to the side to live off of while we built the retreat. We watched that go to zero. Ooh. I'm looking at the bank account for Be Still, and it said $4,000. And I'm staring at it on the bank website, and all of a sudden God spoke to my heart. What does that number need to say for you to have faith I'm going to provide for you through this ministry? And I'm like, wow. I turned to Lindsay. She's sitting behind me because we had sold that mansion of a house, We moved into a 1-bedroom farmhouse with our 3 kids. And it was a bachelor pad from this old farmer. It was just ragged dirty. We cleaned it up, put all of our kids in the 1-bedroom in bunk beds. And then there was like this 3-season porch that we insulated and boxed in for our bedroom. And our king bed went from wall to wall. And our clothes were on hangers above the bed. And we'd jump into the bed from off the end. We call it our sleep-in closet. Some people have a walk-in closet. Like, our closet was a sleep-in closet. And it was awesome. It was a fantastic journey. We move into this little house. And so we're in close quarters compared to what we came from, Made it work. And so she's literally right behind me. I'm at my desk that's on the dining room table. And I'm like, Linz, what does this bank account have to say for us to trust that God's going to provide for us through this ministry? I just repeated back what he spoke to me, and she's like, that doesn't sound like a Jesse question. Like, it's not. And she said, well, now's as good a time as ever. Like, let's start a payroll. Let's start paying ourselves, So I had set up this accounting software for doing bookkeeping because I'm not a bookkeeping guy. And the only thing that this accounting software lacked was payroll. And I'm not good in QuickBooks. And so I was kind of dreading starting payroll. So I open up the accounting software, and this little pop-up comes up from the bottom. It says, new for 2019 payroll through Gusto. And I'm like, no kidding. All right. So set it up. It was easy. Got our payroll set up. So then, so this is Christmas time. So all through Christmas, Lindsay and I literally multiple times went out to the mailbox and prayed at the mailbox that God would send us the money that we could live off of. And we figured that we needed $40,000 to get us through to where our fundraising efforts would pick up. And we go out to the mailbox in the new year, and there was a check there for $40,000 exactly from a couple that we did never talk to, never met, unsolicited donation for $40,000 to us.
Jeez.
This couple had interviewed my sister for a job. My sister told them about what my wife and I were doing. They had just sold their business and were praying about places to put the money that they had gotten from the sale of their business, and sent us a check. And
that's insane, man.
So that comes, and I'm like, why do I keep doing this? Like, God is faithful. And there's so many worship songs. Like, it's hard for us to get through Sunday morning worship because some of these songs, like, I've seen you move the mountains. I know you can do it again. And like these different lyrics, like, we've lived through these situations, and you just start bawling. It's like, God is so good and so faithful through this. Like, why do I keep doubting, And I was hunting again one night. So in this season, I already told you about, the grace button coming out of my faith wavering because of the finances. God provides it. Before he provided, I was out hunting in November again for rifle season, and I'm in my stand, and I'm over this dried out millet field, and there's this amazing sunrise that I'm looking at, it's a sunset. Usually my wife kicks me when I'm getting into these stories and trying to get technical with it. She's like, they don't care, just keep going. She's not here, so I apologize. So,
no, you're good, man.
The sun is setting, and I'm like, man, Lord, that's a beautiful sunset. Thanks for that one. Like, good work. Like, sometimes you just got to look at his handiworks like, nobody can do that but you. And then as much as I was like loving that moment, all of a sudden this fear waved over me that like the adversary jumps in and is like, you don't have time to soak in. You shouldn't even be hunting right now. Like, your accounts are all empty. You are not doing what you need to fundraising. You should be at your computer figuring out how you're going to raise these funds. And all this stuff just starts scrambling into my brain. And I'm like, what is going on right now? I'm like, how do I go from worshiping God over this sunset to having all this fear and anxiety? I'm just like, Lord, like, where are you right now? Like, why are we struggling so much? I know you called us to this. Like, where are you in this? And all of a sudden, this huge wind gust blows right at my face, and I see it just peel over all that millet seed, you know? Mm-hmm. The wind gust comes up, and then this huge flock of birds, they come across after the wind and up over the stand. And that scripture of in Matthew of look at the birds of the air, they don't sow or reap or store away in barns, and look at how God provides for them. How much more will he provide for you? And then God spoke to my heart, as numerous as the heads of millet in this field are the funds I've laid before you. Wow. And anything that the adversary was doing in that, I was right back to sunset. I'm like, all right, I trust you. And so that was in November. December is when we started payroll. In January, that couple came through for us, and it was all God. And it's like, I asked for faith of Abraham, and he keeps schooling me every day in it. You know?
Yeah.
So
he's reminding you.
Yeah. So that when, so now we come to where we have the retreat at full capacity. Now we can serve 1,200 guests annually
at your retreat.
Yep. So it comes out to, our goal is to have 90 free nights stay per month, and we're averaging around 125 right now.
Wow. And
so it's we're serving, we're booked, and God is showing up for people out here. And the testimonies that we get, like anytime someone kind of casts a little doubt our way, like, you should be charging. You really should be charging for what you do, like when times get tight. We'll have a couple that comes out. We were battling with that. This couple comes out, and they're like, we've been in ministry for 31 years. These people were both like 79 and 77, I think this couple was. At 31 years, we haven't had a vacation in 20. And they're crying. They're crying. They asked him. So our kind of policy is, you will not see us unless you ask to see us. Like, we're not the big show out here. God is. Yep. And so if our guests ask to see us, we look at it as a divine appointment, and we're going to make it happen. But otherwise, we're not going to distract you from. We're here to set the table for our guests to have a divine encounter with the Creator in His creation, and not get in the way too much. And but this couple asked to see us, so we met them at the barn. They're bawling, and they're like, we haven't had a vacation in 20 years. We were given the gas money to get here by someone at the church. They're still working at the church. Like, it was one of these rural pastors that never made a retirement. Like, he needs to work till his dying day because he didn't put anything away. His congregation isn't taking care of him like they should. And him and his wife, they haven't been able to go on vacation for 20 years. He's given the gas money to get to us. They were willing to roll the dice that it might not be what we're cracking it up to be. And they got here, and they were just broken with gratitude for God, for us. They had to meet us. And we get done talking to this sweet, sweet couple that have devoted their whole life to serving the church. And we're like, how could we ever charge for this place? Like, for that one couple, dang, they couldn't have gone on vacation if not for us not charging at this place. Like, God will provide. and he does it through individuals. Like we never ask the people that stay here for money, and we're just starting to talk at churches, not so much to like guilt the pastors we're serving into, hey, we need money to survive. It's like that's where the people in the pews that should be supporting their pastors, and a lot of them do, but that's where they are on Sundays, and we need to talk to them. Like, your pastors are using this place. Like, please support Be Still retreats, but also like think about, you've got youth pastors, you've got executive pastors, all these different positions in the church. A lot of these couples are called from outside of their home to a new community. They don't have mom and dad here. They don't have their close friends here. And they've got small kids. Like, watch their kids. Give them a date night. Take the kids overnight so that they can get away. Like, are you thinking about how you can serve the pastors that are serving you in your congregation? Because they are not in a protection bubble. They're not on a pedestal. They're human beings like you and me. A lot of them are isolated and they feel it. Like, it isn't where God's got them, they're good. It's if I don't take care of them, who is? So that Matthew West song, it's time for us to do something. Like, if not us, then who? If not me and you right now, it's time for us to do something. Like, that song came out when we were praying through starting Be Still, and I'd be screaming that on the way to work, like just trying, like, I don't want a flame, I want a fire, and like, driving down the road looking like a crazy person.
That's hilarious.
And but his line in that, it's like, you're crying out to God, why don't you do something? And God says, I did. I created you. Like, in so many situations, if you have a passion for something, or if you're like, gosh, somebody should do something for this couple, it's like, why are you waiting for someone else to do it? God just convicted you to do it. Do it, you know? And so our message a lot of time is, consider your pastors, consider the church leaders that are serving us, that are building the kingdom, that are pouring into so many. And then the other one is withdraw. Like, we have this withdraw guide that we put in the cottages for everyone that visits us. And it's the earliest message that God gave us for what the answer to burnout was, as I'm reading through scripture, God's showing this model of Jesus. Like, half the stories we read about, the disciples are trying to find Jesus. Where's Jesus? Well, he's alone with the Father on the side of a mountain somewhere praying. He often withdrew to a desolate place to get away and pray. So it's like, Jesus didn't burn out, he withdrew. And so we early on, we were talking a lot about Sabbath, and we're like, what we're promoting isn't really Sabbath. What we're promoting is withdrawing the way Jesus modeled. And that's a hub that for everything else to grow out of. When you take time to get alone with the Father, it's a short time. It's not Sabbath rest. It's different. You're taking time to get alone for him to orient your paths in your marriage, in your life, in your work, in your projects. What are your Sabbath rhythms look like? It can be a hub for that to grow. And it isn't like you're solving all your life's problems in a day, but he can give you the next step, and then you set the next time to get alone with the Father. And so that's what we want to be, is a place for consistent, healthy rhythms of rest for church leaders, to be able to establish other healthy rhythms out of. And so this withdraw guide, I sent you a link to. I go through. Yeah, thank you. It's the 4 P's of withdraw. So I go through permission, posture, prayer, and perspective. And it's a very short guide. I'm not an author, publisher, or whatever, but this was what God laid on my heart for what withdrawing is. And so if you're someone where it's like, a lot of us, like, I hate being in the quiet. Like the quiet can be a place of shame. It can be it's like those thoughts from the adversary that I was listening to, like, about my wife. Like, they that voice, you can start listening to that voice, and it's like it comes out in quiet space. We need to claim this quiet time with God as holy ground. And so this guide just kind of lays out, if you're not used to doing this, here's some steps you can take to get you in the right posture, and then the Holy Spirit just takes over. So it's helped some people, not everybody, but it's available. And it's, as much as it's for church leaders, it's for all of us. I use it
Sure.
when I go out. It's like, my wife knows, like, you need some Jesus time, bro. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, I do.
Yep.
It's,
Oh, that's awesome. So
yeah.
how does somebody, that is looking to be able to do what you're talking about, to withdraw, to get some peace, and quite honestly just some peace and quiet, and connect with God, how do they get in touch with you guys, and how do they get signed up for a retreat?
Yeah, so the best way, we have it set up on our website. It's bestillretreats.org, and it's really simple. There's a register button in the menu, and so if you're a teaching pastor, if you're a missionary or a ministry leader, we kind of lay out what our target members are. But you register for membership. We approve your membership, and then we've got all of our facilities available to book right online, like you would on Airbnb or a hotel or anything. So it's really simple. And if you're not good with computers, my direct cell phone number is on our website, so you can call me up and I'll help
Perfect.
you through it. But for us, like, for regular people, as weird as it seems, it's like book a hotel, an Airbnb, or like it just for a day. Get away for just a day.
Right.
Take your Bible, leave your phone. Like, hey, here's where I'm going to be. Like, leave an emergency contact with someone, but just unplug, get away, and see what God does with that time. Like, when you book time on your calendar specifically for God, He's just waiting for us to crawl into this place of rest. Like, He created that rest. It's still available to us. He promises it in His Word, and He never fails in that time. And it's holy ground. Satan has no authority in that place. So that's kind of one of the things I walk through in the guide, is like, claim this sacred space. The adversary has no authority here. You're climbing up into the lap of the Father, the Abba Father. You're not going to the woodshed for a beating. You're going to be sang over. And here's the posture. Here's some prayers to kind of get you in this posture with the Lord. And then here's some things to think about from a perspective standpoint. And so going through those things, and if it's quarterly, if it's monthly, like, we have some members out here that they set monthly times to come out for 2 to 3 nights. It's like, yeah, you've got it. And they're grateful. They're meeting with God here, and their life is so much better for it. So yeah, the website's the place to go. That's where anybody that wants to support Be Still can go there. We've got our event page on the website. Rest in the Riser is on the web page. So
Going a little bit more depth on that one.
yeah. So Chris Ham and I have been friends for quite a while. I want to say, like, back to 2000, like when we started Be Still. Basically, I was holding a men's Bible study at our barn, and Chris started coming to it. And so Chris is one of the owners at HHA Sports, and I didn't even know who he was. He's just a mutual friend brought him along, and he was kind of looking at some of the bows that I had hanging in the barn. He's like, "Oh, and those are our sights on there." And so we hit it off,
For sure.
and we once he learned more about Be Still, God was working on his heart. Like, man, I've got to do something about the veteran suicide rate, about combating PTSD in veterans. And Chris, like, if you spend any time with him, like, he is a magnet for veterans. He has utmost respect. He will trip and encounter whatever obstacle he needs to, crawl over whatever person he needs to shake a veteran's hand, no matter where you are. I've personally witnessed talking to a NASCAR driver, like Chris and I in the pits at Daytona 500, talking to a NASCAR driver, and there's a Vietnam vet that comes walking, and Chris just stops mid-sentence and goes sprinting over to shake his hand, give him a challenge coin. I'm like, I love this guy.
That's awesome.
So when he found out about Be Still, he's like, I want to start this nonprofit. Can you help me out? I would love for you to be on the board of directors. And so it's me and a pastor named Leroy and Chris. We get together and pray and talk through all the opportunities and the partnerships that he's built through HHA USA. It's a beautiful thing, uniting active military, veterans, and first responders around the sport of archery, and then funding, using these shoots that he puts on as a funding source towards all these great organizations that are combating veteran suicide and PTSD. And the following, the community of guys at those shoots throughout Wisconsin, my son and I started going, and we will do whatever we can to make it every time. It's like God shows up in those spaces, and he is moving on hearts. He's saving lives. He's pulling people out. He's pulling these veterans and first responders out from these places of isolation and uniting them with common like-minded people.
Right.
And it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
It is. I couldn't agree more, man. That, just like I said, that last weekend being my first experience with HHA USA, it was. I mean, I still think about those 2 days. Just on how. It's honestly probably one of the only places that I've gone to something like that where it was just so easy to unwind, one, but then also like speak openly and just not feel like weird or displaced by talking about your faith. Like, it just came out so naturally. I think, like you were hinting at a little earlier, another place that happens quite often is obviously out while you're hunting too.
Yeah, the being able to razz people, sin being an archery term, and just like that's what's beautiful with Center Shot as well. Like Aaron Shear's story of the bow and all the components of the bow and how it relates to the gospel message. If you're listening to this and you haven't seen it, go to Center Shot's website and look up the what do they call that bow?
The life bow.
The life bow. Look up the story of the life bow. It is amazing, but just being in nature and shooting, and I'm not a super good shot, so I'm pretty self-deprecating on the course. And so if you don't like joking around and you're too serious, don't partner up with me. You're gonna be angry. but you make such great connections, and then you start opening up because it's. I mean, you've got 3 miles to walk and 30 targets to shoot. You're gonna get to know a lot about each other, and
real quick, and especially when it's hot.
Yeah. So, the last shoot was at God's Country Stick and String, and Kyle and Kirsty have an amazing thing going out there. I'm so glad their community didn't let them do trap shooting, because that being an archery course is a gift. And so Chris approached me. He's like, we're doing these shoots. He's like, I'd love to help you do a shoot as a fundraiser for what you're doing at Be Still. We're we have some chaplains that have integrated with HHA USA as well. And so he's like, when we do our shoot in Rapids, we'll have some pastors stay out there with some veterans. And so we're starting to do some collaborations. I love it. And it's like, let's do a fundraiser. And so this is our first annual Rest in the Riser. So Jesus is the riser. He's the risen king. We're resting in him at Be Still. But also you've got the bow components, just kind of gleaning from my friend Aaron there.
Yep.
You've got the rest that's fixed to the riser, and you can't shoot an arrow without that. And when Chris and I were talking about this event, he's like, we should name it something. He loves naming things. And he's like, I think I got it. He's like, this might be the fastest that I've come up with something. He said, what do you think of Rest in the Riser? I said, sold. Let's do it.
Yeah, that's a great name.
So it's the Rest in the Riser event, July 11th, at God's Country in Norwalk. It's just south of Sparta. And, oh yeah, you're in that area, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm just over in La Crosse.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, it's a bit of a drive for me. Not too bad, but
yeah,
it's open to the public. This is a fundraiser shoot. It's not just for pastors. That we're doing this as a good time, and a fundraiser. And, so come out if you want to shoot it. And, Chris is helping us run it. So if you've ever been to an HHA shoot, it'll be similar. And, looking forward to it a lot.
Oh, that's going to be great, man. What do you got cooking next? What's next for Be Still or for the Rest in the Riser thing?
Yeah, so these fundraisers that we do, we fundraise towards specific purpose at Be Still, and so anything that we're doing expansion wise, it covers those three areas I talked about: is personal relationship with God, relationship with your spouse, and support staff. So on our meeting barn, we're redoing our back porch this year. It's we went with like outdoor carpet over marine plywood, and it was really sweet for a while. But then like water got trapped under it. It's growing moss.
Snow.
It's soft, and like, why did we do this? So we're replacing that deck, and then we're adding a pergola to it so that from the upper meeting area of our meeting barn, guests can go out onto the patio. It'll be shaded and beautiful. So we're upgrading that.
Nice.
And then we're going to be putting a lean-to on our main laundry room. Like there isn't anything super sexy about that, but it's like we want to be able to utilize our patio spaces around our barn, and there's currently like a lawnmower parked there and a bunch of bikes parked under there, and we want to open that space out for other seating areas for when the groups are using the barn. So we're gonna build this lean-to put that stuff in. So that's what Rest in the Riser is going to fund, is what we need to build that lean-to, basically.
That's awesome.
And yeah, down the road we've got vision for we call it the Olive Tree Terrace. So this would be an outdoor space that's covered with, picture a huge harvest table that you can get at least 20 people around, with a grill, wood-fired pizza oven.
Oh, wow.
Outdoor fireplace, and being able to just sit with a group of people outdoors, whether it's summer or winter. Like we'll have some heating in the roof so you can be out there in the winter even, but have this outdoor space where groups can gather, and it's a unique venue. And then we'll have a propane fire pit as well. So people who know how to start fires can do it in the outdoor fireplace. If you're one where it's like, just give me a flip switch, then that's an option.
There you go.
And then we want to have like a smaller conference room that's got restroom facilities attached to that Olive Tree Terrace, where if like our barn is huge, so for us to heat up our entire barn in the winter for a group of like 5 people is kind of silly. We do it, but it's got to be a minimum of 5 people. It'll fit up to 50 people. And so we want to build a smaller conference room that's made for like 10 or less people. So, so we can just heat a smaller space off of the olive tree terrace for groups that want to meet in a smaller space. And it's going to be windows from the floor to the ceiling facing the woods. And so those are some of the things we have in the works for the future. And it's my wife and I out doing this, and our kids volunteer, and we bring in other volunteers. There's a volunteer link on our website as well. And but God's given us enough that we can manage it with the two of us at Be Still Retreats, and so we're trying to keep things kind of sized for that.
Sure.
Where we're not overtaxed and burning out trying to fight burnout, but also expanding with some cool things for our guests. The other thing we're doing this summer is we're putting in a hammock park. So that'll be down by our pond and kind of my favorite area on the property. So
awesome.
Yeah, lots of plans in the works.
That's awesome, man. No, I mean, this is just, it's something that, when Chris introduced us, I never really, quite honestly, thought about, how much, clergy and ministry leader burnout there really is. But you think about it for just even a second, it's like, hey, they can go easily from a baptism to a marriage to, last rites.
Yeah.
All in a day's span. And like, what a, whirlwind of emotions and a roller coaster there. It's just something that you didn't really think about. And then when I just started thinking about it, and then Chris is like, oh, you gotta get him on. I'm like, yeah, I do. This is an amazing thing. And, I just want to say thank you for taking the charge on this. I mean, it's something I've never heard of before, but it is something that's, I think, so needed, because you know that, those kinds of people, and really anybody, but, kind of can isolate a little bit, and they need that relief to get away.
Yeah. You hit the nail on the head with the roller coaster that can be for pastors. And I think I was telling you, like, there was a pastor I know where he literally had a wedding, he had a funeral, and those were in the same weekend, and then the following week I think it was either a tragic accident of a school student or it was a suicide. And so these highs and lows, and then you'd picture just yourself, like say that kid has been at your house before.
Right.
And you're impacted by the loss, and the family, and so you're grieving with them, and the impact that has on you. Now picture this church leader, this pastor who's called in, and can you please be grief counsel for this school, the teachers, the students, the parents, and they themselves know this kid and their parents. They're experiencing not only the firsthand, but they're trying to be that source of strength and faith for everybody else in the community. It's like, yeah. And so when people are like, Pastor Burnout, is that a thing? Like, didn't God call him to it? Doesn't he? It's like, are you kidding me? Have you ever, it's like, you just got to think for a little bit and put yourself in their shoes, what they go through. It's funny, even like you think about funerals. So my cousin's a funeral director, and it's one thing, a family that's part of the church, and so the family, and you've got your own stories about the family, and it's like it's a celebration in a way, but it's also sad. But you get cold calls from this family where you've never met anyone in the family, they've never stepped foot in their church. It's like, my dad died, he needs a funeral, we need you to do it. And so you're trying to meet this family, find out something about this individual. It's like, well, they were an atheist. It's like, well, why are you having a funeral at the church? It's like, this stuff happens, and so even the roller coaster of emotions, but then these
Hmm.
really awkward, stressful situations on top of it. And it's
Yeah.
like, this person has a marriage problem. This person was smoking on the field trip, and it's like, uh, just constantly getting hit with that stuff. And that's just pastors. Then, we serve missionaries.
Hmm.
You have missionaries that are coming home, so that, like, say they're serving overseas somewhere. It used to be where you could afford to have a house in the States that you're coming back to. They can't afford that anymore. So you literally, missionaries have stuff in storage containers all throughout this country. They're making travel plans to come home so that they can do their medical, get their vaccinations and their medical checkouts and stuff done, their testing that they have to do for various things, their fundraising. And so they're coming home to do those things in the States, and they're hopping from basement to basement, this friend's house, this relative over here, and traveling to different states. And then their stuff is in a storage container over here, and they're trying to piece everything together. It's like they need, they're stressed out. They're not coming home like on vacation from the mission field. It turns into this nightmare. It's like, we want to be a place where they can come unwind for a week here too, where it's like you have a consistent place that you can stay 7 nights and just take a breather after all the hustle and bustle of getting all that
Right.
stuff done that you need to in the States. And so, if anybody listening to this, if you have an Airbnb, consider offering that up to talk to people in your church, talk to pastors. If there's missionaries you support through your church, that can be a huge blessing. Just carving out a little bit of time at a place that you have that you're already renting out, or maybe it's a vacation cottage that's not an Airbnb, but you're not there all the time. Having that space, like, you can do what we're doing at Be Still with the property that you have. If it's something you feel called to, you just host them as a friend to your place, like
Mm.
anybody else. And you'll make a world of impact in the lives of every person you allow to do it. And you might just get hooked the same way we did.
It's amazing, man. I just want to say thank you guys, because it is just such an amazing thing you're doing, and you're doing the Lord's work, man. You're taking care of them. It's amazing. It's something that that's all I have. It's I don't know. That's just something I never thought. Like I said earlier, it's just something I never really thought about. And then you do start thinking about it, like, dang. I mean, we struggle with our own just stuff. These guys, these men and women, they're struggling with everybody's stuff. You know what I mean? And then they're not only the one who has to take and listen to it. They're also the one that's counseling. They're the one that's trying to get them through this. And then it's like, well, who do they got?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you bringing me on to the
Oh yeah.
podcast and allowing me to talk about it. Like, each one of us has different giftings. Each one of us has our part and roles to play in what God's
Mm.
doing everywhere. I mean, He's the one doing this. We're just jumping in the river that He's flowing through, and I to come back to, I was talking about things that you learn in life and you don't know what you're going to
Mm-hmm.
be using it for. So my wife went to school to be a phy ed and health teacher. While she was in college, she worked at this hotel as a room cleaner. And then she eventually made it to this manager spot where she was inspecting the rooms that got cleaned by the housekeeping. And so she was taught under this woman that ran a tight ship, and everything had to be just so, and everything had its place, and you better make the beds right, and you better not see fingerprints or smudges. And so she went through all that in college. So we go through, paying off all the student loans and everything. She substitute taught for a little bit, but then we start Be Still, and it is all hospitality. It's, making
Right.
the beds, vacuuming the floors, cleaning the linens, and washing the windows. And she loves it. It is her. When she's not at Be Still cleaning, she's cleaning houses for people in the community. Like, she's just,
Mm.
she finds peace in doing it. She likes it. She's weird that way. But she's like, it's really funny that I went through all that money and all that schooling, and it was the side job that I had
Same, yeah.
that I'm actually applying today, And so it's funny how God equips us throughout life, and we don't even realize what he's going to use it for. But
That's awesome, man. Well, you started us in prayer. Will you end us in prayer as well?
yeah, absolutely. Lord, I thank you again for this time with Luke, and I thank you for all the stories and different testimonies that you brought to light. I pray that anything that anyone's meant to hear that came out of my mouth, that it lands, that you would plant a seed and grow that, and anything that was not meant to be heard, that's just me talking and not you, I just pray it goes in one ear and out the other. And I thank you for this opportunity. I thank you for the ways that you move in our lives and connect us through these different, just this connection I made with Luke and being able to have this opportunity. We lift up all of our church leaders to you and the missionaries. And I pray that this episode will touch hearts and hit everybody that it's meant to, Lord. Again, to you all the glory. We give you all the praise in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen, brother.
Well, thanks
a
again.
Tricky
Luke.
thing, getting the headphones off and the hat back on, kind of thing.
Well, it isn't like I was just always brought up to like. I was brought up in a strict church where it's like no head coverings when you pray, and so then I have it like, all right, I'm praying.
Same.
I don't want to be smited, but God is okay if you don't get the hat off. I wouldn't have been offended if you left the headphones and stuff on, but
Oh no, I'm the same way. It's like it
habit.
just is like it's automatic. It's either that, the Pledge of Allegiance, or the national anthem. Those are the three.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, hey, I really appreciate you coming on, man. I'm just looking forward. I because it's July 11th is the Rest in the Riser event, correct?
Yep.
So July 11th, Rest in the Riser. Check it out, God's Country, Stick and String. Unfortunately, I'm going to be gone. Otherwise, I'd be there for sure. We're going to be down in North Carolina with our family, but I'm really looking forward to the. Are you going to be able to make the August HHA event?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're in July when they're touring HHA. We're going to be hosting. We're going to be hosting a couple of pastors and vets out at Be Still for that event. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Be the first time we did that, and I'm planning on making every shoot this year. That'll be the first time I've done it, but I'm just hooked.
Yeah, dude.
I gotta see my friends and meet the new ones that come. And
well, hey man, I appreciate it because me and you just met, and then I'm like I gotta get on a 3D course with this guy. So August we're gonna have to do some shooting, man.
Yeah, as long as you're not too serious, then
Oh no. I'm lucky if I'm hitting foam, we're good.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, thanks a lot, Luke. It was great talking with you, and I really appreciate you having me on.
Anytime, man. Thanks, Jesse. Thank you for joining us on this journey through faith in the great outdoors. We hope today's episode has inspired you to seek God's presence in the wilderness and deepen your connection with nature. If you enjoyed today's discussion, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to the Wild Faith Podcast on your favorite platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. By subscribing, you'll never miss an episode, and you'll continue to be a part of the Wild Faith Podcast community. We'd also love to hear from our listeners, so please don't hesitate to reach out with your questions, comments, or topic suggestions. You can connect with us on social media or through our website. Your feedback is important to us and helps us improve and tailor our content to better serve you. And always remember, the great outdoors isn't just a playground for hunting and fishing. It's a sanctuary for finding solace and spiritual renewal. As you gear up for that next adventure, I pray you find God's presence in the crackling of a campfire, the thrill of reeling in your catch, or the quiet solitude found in nature. Until next time, thank you for listening to the Wild Faith Podcast. Take care, and God bless. I need a holy
awakening my soul.